JB here, JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. October 7th, 2024, 8:56 on this fine Monday. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Talk really quick about the markets, some of the names I'm looking at, some of the catalysts this week, and go from there. But take a look at the S&P. Futures were opened slightly in the green overnight and then just, I wouldn't say tumbled, but reversed into the red over in the early morning hours. And S&P futures are a little bit off the lows, down about 3/8 of a percent. Uh, and this is on the heels of last week in the markets. We had that rough patch at the start of the week, and then the rally on the strong jobs report on Friday, and put the S&P on a weekly gain, which didn't look like was going to be the case in the middle of the week. Some concerning things and things I'm watching this week. Of course, we have CPI data Thursday morning. Wednesday at 2 o'clock, we'll get the Fed minutes from the last Fed meeting and the first rate cut in a couple of years. The jumbo rate cut, we'll have to see if there's any things that can be gleaned from it. We have that lone dissenter of the Fed, the rate cut. So maybe there's some bonking of heads, some sparring there, and some differing opinions. So that'll be interesting. The Fed minutes, and then earnings season kicks off. And Pepsi's tomorrow, but the banks are now pretty much the official kickoff of the earnings season. You have J.P. Morgan, BlackRock, and I think Wells Fargo. And then the following week, Netflix is on Thursday. So things will start to get interesting. Historically, weak performing month here in October. So I'm sure it's going to be some more volatility. I put on a watch list this morning. I'm watching the SPY. So 568, again, we had that big reversal off the gap on Friday, all the way down to 568 on the SPY and bounced. We also bounced at 568 on Tuesday and Wednesday. So not Tuesday and Wednesday. Excuse me. Maybe it was Monday. And then Tuesday and Wednesday was 565. So those would be the two spots I'm looking for possible support. If things accelerate to the downside, I'll certainly be looking for some put hedges. Last week, I was very selective on adding some calls, and I'll probably continue to do so this week until I feel a little more comfortable. And some of the things that would make me more comfortable would be the VIX. And the VIX is gapping up. It was up over 10% this morning. Let's see if I can find it here. It's up 9% right now here in the pre-market. So, and I mean, there's not much in the way of catalyst today. You have the 10-year yield. That's the big talking point this morning. It's over 4% for the first time in a couple months, despite the jumbo rate cut. So there's that. And then you have the backdrop of the geopolitical tensions. So I guess that's some of it. And of course, the market closing green last week. So just, I guess you wrap that all together. And we have a little weakness here this morning, but certainly want to see the VIX back under 20, even lower if possible. Surprising, even when we were green last week and the VIX rallied from lows at the end of September all the way to highs that we're hitting right now. So kind of want to see the VIX come in. And then last but not least, some things that I guess would give you a little more confidence is that the market breadth, and we were talking about last week, where the Magnificent Seven finally weren't the majority of the gains for the market. So despite weakness in some of those names, the market still hit highs. So I guess that could be construed as a good thing. But names, the amount of stocks over their 50-day moving average on the S&P still over 75%. So that's a good sign. All right, so now individual names. So late Friday, it was announced that the UAE, United Arab Emirates, issued their first gambling license and went to WYNN. Not really a surprise. WYNN they're starting to make an island there. I forget what it's called, Al Marjan or something like that. And they were just waiting on the license, right? So, but they're the first casino to be actually allowed there because gambling's illegal in UAE. It's very, very strict there. So a good sign, in my opinion. And then also you had overnight the Hang Seng rallying. I thought China markets were opening overnight. They're not opening. They're opening tomorrow. Well, overnight for us, Tuesday. I posted a link. Looks like there's a huge pent-up demand. I'm sure it's going to gap much higher at the open. It's just a matter if it holds those gains, the China markets. But I think that'll bode well. You see some of the China ADRs gap in this morning, Baidu, Baba, and WYNN. So I don't know how much the WYNN gap up. It's up near, well, it was over 108. Right now it's at 107.70. I don't know how much the gap this morning in WYNN is on that license for UAE, or is it the fact that the Hang Seng rallied overnight, or maybe it's a combination of both. But I think it bodes well, and if it can't be construed net negative. So what's going to happen tomorrow? They have an investor. Well, it's actually an analyst day, so you have to be invited to the analyst day to discuss the island and the possible financial performance for it. So forward-looking statements. It's going to be a big deal. I think it's at 11:30 Pacific time, which would mean 2:30 Eastern time, or it's in Vegas, so it's at their WYNN Vegas resort. So I'm sure. I don't know if they're gonna have a release in the morning before the market opens with an 8K talking about it. I would think if it's especially if it's a material information that they might do that, but certainly could move the stock. And if it's a substantial, if they forecast a substantial market for it, I mean, the stock could be 115 in a flash. So still have those October 18th 115 strikes. I was going to lock some in at the end of the day on Friday when WYNN was at 106 and then it just tumbled down to 105. I'll probably look to lock some in today just to cover some more costs. Ride the rest. If it shows strength, especially if it gets over 109, I might look for some more calls to play for upside. Really like the WYNN story. Now you have a lot of different ingredients here. Not only the what's going on in Asia and Macau, but also now this UAE license. If you've traded WYNN for a while, gosh, I remember back in the day they were getting a license in Boston or Massachusetts for the first casino in Massachusetts. And then so that was a huge move for the stock. And then you had the whole allegations with WYNN and sexual misconduct. And when you have these licenses, especially in the US, there's so many regulatory hurdles that have to get jumped over to get a license and a gambling license, especially in Boston. So when those allegations came out, it was negative for WYNN. And so I think it's you see anytime you get especially a license in a new market, it's got to be construed net positive for WYNN. So I think it heads much higher. All right, rants for other days. That's when AMD has their AI event on Thursday. The stock was already running Friday, closed up nearly 5%. It reversed morning lows this morning, and it's up a little bit here in the pre-market. I think it trades over 180 this week. Hopefully, it does it before Thursday. I'll look to lock. I already locked, two little tranches, I guess you would call it, of positions on the 180s. I'll probably lock a little more depending on what those open, and then just ride the rest. Depending on what the premiums are, I might look for maybe some 190s, just if they're inexpensive. So really like the AMD setup. The only issue, the upper Bollinger Bands, 170, 72.19. So I might find some resistance there. But if it breaks that, blue skies, 175 and possibly 180 before the week's out. You have that gap fill from back in the middle of July. That's AMD. Dell, you would have to think if AMD and NVIDIA run up, Dell's going to move up in tandem, close at 120 on Friday. Tight Bollinger Bands almost, it's over its 200-day moving average, so maybe move to 130 or so. Again, depends on the premiums. If they're over $1 on the 130s, I'm not going to grab those, but I might get some spec calls on that. Not much here to add on Turn and VKTX. Nice article in Barron's over the weekend talking about the FDA removing the shortage on LLY, which you have these other, I guess they call them compound GLP-1s. I don't even know how it really works. I had someone on FinTwit saying that's false news, that Hims and some of these other companies are going to be still able to sell GLP-1 drugs and the same components of Wegovy and Zepbound or whatever. Quite honestly, I have to do a little more digging on that. But to me, it's net positive. What it means, and that's why you saw Hims stock sell off a lot last week, is that these companies that have been selling GLP-1 to help with the supply issue can't sell them. And I think they have 60 or 90 days. Again, I think it's a net negative for the entire GLP-1 space that has, especially ones that have the drugs already, but then the ones coming to market. VKTX, I keep talking. If it breaks 70, I think that's the key spot. And then 75 is where I'll add more strikes. Constructive yesterday. It's knock on wood. I try not to talk about VKTX too much because once I do, it seems the stock reverses gains. But hopefully you can get a nice bid here today. It's up just a fraction here in the pre-market and get going and maybe gets over 70 in the next day or two. And then once that 75 hits, would be a great sign. Not much here to add on Corbis, closed under $20 again, just kind of disappointing, but at least don't want to see it hit the multi-year lows here. So can find some footing. They were at a conference on I think it's the 11th. Let me just make sure because I didn't pull it up here. Why is this not coming up? Let's see. They're at a BMO capital market conference on Tuesday the 8th. Why did I think it was the 11th? So that could be possibly a catalyst. And again, some of the issue with Corbis is that people think it's just from its CB1 drug that's still in clinical. So it's not even phase 1 study. So really like that name. If it finds some support or strength at some point this week, I might go for some more, possibly some November strikes. And then Redfin, and it's over here at $11 in the pre-market. Another one of those afternoon reversals hitting lows around 2:30, and then went on a nice rip roar tear up to 11:30 in a matter of like 15 minutes. Still higher highs, higher lows. It's still testing my patience, but once it finds a bid, I think it's off to the races. what was it? The Wall Street Journal had an article this morning around housing in Florida, saying people who moved down there for the hype, it's like a reverse migration. I don't know if that's you know what's going on. Someone, I guess, they went from West Virginia to Florida, then upgrade their house back in 2001, and now they're having a problem selling it. And it's kind of funny how those articles come up in the midst of two hurricanes coming up through Florida. So it's almost like people click those. It's like great clickbait. Let's talk about Florida since it's in the news. But anyway, I still think the lower rate environment is just conducive to names like Redfin. And that's it, folks. Got 23 minutes to the open. I'll be back on audio later. Again, I'm just remaining cautious with the VIX over 20. It's a historically rough month, right? It just is. It's not. And then with the VIX at highs here, markets right near highs. If the SPY starts breaking support, 568 will be the first spot. I might look to get some put hedges at MDB, ServiceNow, possibly Visa, which is at 270, almost 278 here. Nice bounce off of those lows from a couple weeks ago. I think those would be some nice hedge names, just if there is weakness. Because, as much as I like to see the market head higher, I'm certainly not going to be caught with my pants down if we do at some point get some pull, right? So that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.